All right, surprise, surprise. What a shocking thing to have on this Tuesday. I haven't been paying attention to the forums, I guess, but the PTB came out with the Chapter 10 review, meaning we have a new killer, a new map, and a new survivor. Heck yeah, dudes! This will be awesome. So, really quick, want to go over some of the patch notes. Then we'll go over the killer and the survivor in this, and then get some videos out from each of their perspectives and hopefully get the new map. So, first and foremost, we are in the new chapter, which is Darkness Among Us. This is where they go through and explain the new change. Borrowed Time had that timer when you save somebody off the hook before they either had to heal themselves or they would be downed. They have now officially given it a title. It is called Deep Wound. The reason that they're doing that is that the killer is going to have a mechanic that has the survivors suffer from an ability very much similar to the Borrowed Time. As a matter of fact, it's the exact same thing. It's a bleed out timer. So Deep Wound has been introduced into the game. I will go into more detail as we look at the new killer. However, Borrowed Time got nerfed again. I don't have any problem with this. I think it's a totally fair nerf because if you're using Borrowed Time, more often than not, you're using the third rank, and I've always thought that Borrowed Time lasts too long. I think that the punishment should be, for Borrowed Time is an extra swipe, or having to decide between one or two survivors as they're saving them off the hook. And so it's changed from 15, 20, 25 to 10, 15, and 20. Um, the bottom left is going to have a different look to it now. Borrowed Time, it's going to have a orangish look. Um, it's almost like a bloodied look. To me, it looks like it's an orange tube, but it is more orange, and it goes down to red the closer you get to that timer. So there is a visual stimuli that comes from the new Deep Wound mechanic. So that's new. The only thing that's changed in the patch notes that I think are worth noting is they're changing a lot of lighting features. So they just changed the infinite loops, right? A lot of windows don't spawn now that create infinites for survivors. They're adjusting lighting across the dream world, the Spirit's Phase Walk, to help with quality on different maps. So now there should be less opportunity for the dream ashy world of the Nightmare, Freddy Krueger, for people to be able to hide. It's a little bit more consistent and clear. We're going to have to check that out in a different video, but kind of see how that lighting has changed. And then something that I find really, really interesting, auras have been increased, which means that both survivor and killer, things like barbecue and chili, bond, botany, these kind of, not botany, but whatever the heal one is, allows you to see people, empathy, allows people to see who's hurt on the map. They're going to be brighter now, they're going to be much more contrasted to the maps, which will be great for the killer. For the survivors, I don't imagine it making any significant differences. This is one that I want to look at. The lockers now block the auras that are hiding inside automatically, meaning that if you think someone has barbecue and chili, lockers are now a viable strategy to hide yourself from that barbecue and chili indicator, because lockers are a great way, and you're actually going to see that that gets countered by this killer. It's actually really, really cool. But lockers are now a way to block the aura of breeding opportunities. I imagine for both the killer and the survivor. This one right here is just a bug. If you died in the locker, you could literally sit in there until the killer found you. It wouldn't push you out automatically. Now you're pushed out automatically. And this is kind of an interesting change because it's going to mess with me when I'm jigging around with my keyboard and controller. But you no longer have to press run to cancel healing. You can just literally walk away, which can be an advantage if someone's healing you for too long and you don't want to create scratch marks. So I guess, buff to survivors in the sense of, just practicality, having an idiot healing you and you don't want to just press the run button to draw attention to yourself, you can now walk away for that one. Other than that, we're going to check out the UI update to everything here in just a second, get that all figured out, and then this rest of its bug fixes. I didn't notice anything that was significantly huge, just different things, Ori's looking weird, different status effects being kind of swampy, and then different UI and status effects that would happen on this thing. So let's look at the survivor first, because this is what everybody cares about, right? You don't care about the killer. Nah. So this is Jeff Johansson. Johansson from Canada. Let's take a look at the UI different and the survivor. You'll notice this is much cleaner. I actually really like this change, even though it's small. It just looks cleaner. I'm a big UI guy. I like the way things look. I like that there's a care that goes into what the game is trying to accomplish. So here's his background story. You're welcome to pause this if you care to read it. Long story short, he's from Canada. He's kind of a quiet kid, so he decided to be a rough guy to hide the fact that he had anxiety. Anyway, his perks are breakdown. What this does is after you are removed or saved from a hook, you break that hook immediately, which means that someone who goes in for a farming save, hey, at least the hook next to you, if the killer picks you up, isn't going to be there. And you have to walk to another, which is a huge advantage. Breaking down those hooks and just creating less space for a killer so that you can have more time to escape. The other thing that's cool about it is the killer order is revealed to you for, I believe it's 4, 6, and 8 seconds. I've seen the tier 3 on most of these. I just trying to remember it. But yeah, so the killer's order is shown to you when you are saved. So if he's about on top of you, you'll know, mostly from the heartbeat, but far away, you at least get an indicator. So interesting. This is not a tier 1 perk, but it could be utilized with things like Deliverance from Adam Francis, where you can, get an automatic save from yourself. There's a lot of opportunities here to mix and match and maybe have a cool build. The next one is Aftercare. Really intriguing. This combines the abilities of empathy and bond for a survivor. So what happens is that you share with survivors, and it goes from 1, 2 to 3 based on your rank. Okay, this occurs with 1, 2, or all survivors. What happens is if you rescue or rescued from a hook, you and that survivor are now immediately linked. If you complete a healing action or a healing action is completed on you, aka mending, curing somebody from the dream world, etc., any type of healing action, you become linked. And what that link does is that you now have their aura infinite. So basically, Bond from Dwight has a max of 32 yards or 28 yards, and Empathy is unlimited, but they have to be injured. See, this is the better version of both those perks, but it does have the caveat that it's not automatically enabled. There is an action that is required beforehand. However, that action occurs enough in a game that I feel that this does trump both of them as perks, but that's kind of based on a personal preference. I could totally see me using Aftercare in a Save the Friends build, with like Borrowed Care, Aftercare, something that's specifically meant to take care of other people, not going for that solo play. So really cool perk. I actually really like how, I really think it's pretty balanced in the sense of what it accomplishes. However, it's only so useful in Survive with Friends because obviously, your voice comms is super useful in this, but still, I see this being useful in a lot of different scenarios. Next, you have Distortion. This one is really, really cool. We have no idea how it works because it is bugged on the public test build, and so we're just waiting for a bug fix on this. But the idea is you start with 3 tokens. I believe it goes up to 5 with rank 3. We can look at that as I have his rank 3 on the other page. When your aura would be shown to the killer, i.e. barbecue and chili, right? Other varying things where the auras are given to you. Instead, a token is consumed. And this is really, really interesting because when you see a token's consumed, this is going to this is a skill cap perk because it requires you to pay attention because you're not going to get an indicator that your token was used except for the number on the perk labeled on the bottom right of your page. But for the next 6, and I believe it is 7 and 8 seconds, rank 1 to 3, the perk is activated, your aura and scratch marks will not be shown to the killer. So this is very much like the dancing perk from Kate Denson that allowed you to, when you vault, you don't make scratch marks for a certain amount of time. This is huge. If you get an indicator where like your aura should be shown, then all of a sudden you are able to run for free. And again, a skill cap because you don't know when that's going to start or stop. And so you just have to keep that in mind. Now, Distortion might have a cool cooldown timer that lets you know how long you have to run. Maybe we'll lower that skill gap a little bit. This perk I see being super, super valuable in a solo game perk where I'm farming for items, right? My whole goal is to survive to the end of the match, either by finding the hatch or getting out the door. And this kind of helps teeter towards the bad luck syndrome, right? With different opportunities with the killer to find you. So, that is Jeff Johansson. Honestly, I think he looks like Jake with his beard, but that's neither here nor there. Right? He's just got a little bit more brown hair, a little bit chubbier in the waist, right? It's a lovable hero. That's exactly what we needed. So let's switch over to, I know you guys don't care, but Legion. Let's talk about Legion. Frank Morrison, to be exact, but he is called the Legion. The reason being is because his story, again, I'm not going to ruin too much, it's actually pretty good. But basically, he creates a circuit of criminals from normal high schoolers. And so he's very much the ringleader. How he gets pulled in the fog, from what his actions took. But the Legion is a human. He's a true human, right? We obviously have the shape. These guys are human by nature, but mutated by the fog. He is a true human, meaning the only thing that he changes are his masks. But he was pulled into the fog as a 19-year-old killer, so he's also the youngest killer that we have, barely above a teenager. So first of all, his ability is Feral Frenzy. It is a power gauge that builds up over time. You do this by using the power button, right? Your L2 or mouse button 2, depending on what you're playing. The Legion sprints faster than base movement speed, right? And his base movement speed is the same as the Huntress, so not too fast. The Legion can vault pallets, but not break them. And while you are lunging at people, missed attacks have a reduced cooldown. However, the survivor scratch marks are hidden from your view. While Feral Frenzy is active, hitting a survivor does not injure them, but instead applies the deep status effect. It injures them in the sense that, I guess it does injure them because it takes them from healthy to injured state in the deep wound. Every time you hit a new survivor that does not have the deep wound effect, it'll refill your power gauge, and your sprint is much like the spirit. You have a cooldown, a set time. Every time you hit somebody who is not in the deep wound effect, it refreshes it. When you trigger Killer Instinct, this is insane in my opinion, but whenever you trigger Killer Instinct, you are revealed all the survivors who don't have the deep wound status and are within your terror radius, which is 32 or 24 meters on the Legion. And so you basically, one of his strongest powers is attacking multiple survivors that are working together. You're going to see from his perks that he's very much a anti-party type killer. While Feral Frenzy is active, hitting a survivor who has the deep wound effect reduces the deep wound bleed out timer. However, it depletes the entire power gauge and ends the power immediately. So you can cut down significantly the time that has deep wound, because the survivors you hit, you can't process that information, or not process. You can't immediately down them right when you're sprinting after them. You have to be in normal mode, right, which is 110 base movement speed, or you're in Feral Frenzy. However, you can deplete that power gauge, and the sooner you deplete that, the sooner they're downed. But the goal of this killer is to be hitting multiple people and create my favorite thing in this game, which is chaos. Anytime you create chaos, you slow the game down and you take control over the survivors. So, first of all, let's take a look at the UI difference. Every killer has attributes, and the attributes are its base movement speed, meaning, so to give you guys some perspective, 4 meters per second is 100% movement speed. So like the shape in phase 1 is at 4, and then he goes up to 4.6 movement speed, which is considered 120% movement speed. That's what we've had as when you will open the game and open up the game files. That's what it shows. Now this is meters per second. I think it's a lot easier to determine that kind of value. But just understand that 4.4 and 4.6, there is a drastic difference. And then to kind of show you, if you've ever played the Nurse, who is horrifically slow, almost as slow as a Survivor, her base movement speed is 3.8. So the other thing you'll notice is their terror radius. So even within 1, you'll notice right here, I don't know why it shows his max base speed and even within 1, but it shows that his terror radius. It doesn't allow you to change it, so recognize that this changes to 24 in tier 2 and to 32, or even, I think it's 36 actually, in tier 3. But his base movement speed is it's just 4 flat, or 4.2 flat actually. It's 100%, it's 4.2. And then it goes to 4.6 in tier 2 and tier 3. So just a cool little UI thing. Let's get back to our homeboy, the Legion. Where you at, dude? There you are. So, 4.4 movement speed is the exact same as the Spirits and the Huntresses. However, his base terror radius is the same as tier 2 Michael. That's interesting. And that affects his power as well. And his height is average. One of the things I do want to point out is that the only two are tall and average, meaning there is a chance, I don't know if this is true, but you could get a small killer in the future, someone who can actually mind game and hunt, being so tiny. Let's go over his 3 perks. You have Discordance. Anytime 2 survivors or more are working on the same generator, the generator's aura is highlighted in yellow for 8 seconds, and I believe it's 8, 10, and 12. This literally means that if 2 people work on a generator, there's no cooldown on this. Meaning if 2 people ever work on a generator, the Legion knows. So, everyone who's gen rushing, this is a super powerful perk because of the intel that it gives you. Mad Grit. While carrying a survivor, you suffer no cooldown for missed attacks, and successfully hitting another survivor will cause the carried survival's Wigger timer. We'll pause it for 2 seconds. 2, 3, and 4. Meaning that if you are carrying somebody and they're trying to block you on the hook, you have no cooldown, meaning you literally go swipe, 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 swipe. Now, no cooldown does not mean it doesn't slow you down. You still lose your base movement speed when you swing, but there is no cooldown, meaning if people bait you out, you can swing immediately right after. You guys never played Dead by Daylight back in the good old days when there was the machine gun build with Michael Myers perks before they nerfed it. But there was a time where you could swing probably almost every like half a second. It was pretty nuts. And this is very similar to that. And then pausing the survivor's wiggle time for 2, 3, and 4 seconds. That's just nice if people are trying to stop you at the hook. This literally is built for people who sit at the hook and try to stop you from hanging people up. This immediately counters that and nerfs it, which is really, really cool. Whether it's better than other perks, probably not because of its scenario, but it's nice to know that in use you get higher ranks and people who do that more often than not, you have an option to counter them. Lastly is Iron Maiden. I love this perk. I freaking love this perk so much. It's not going to be super useful, but I just love the concept. You open lockers 30, 35, and 40% faster, rank 1s, 2 to 3. And survivors who exit lockers suffer from the exposed status effect for 15, 20, and 25 seconds, and their location is real for 4, 5, and 6. So if you ever go to locker to chill and you come out, he not only knows where you are, but you have the exposed status, so you can get insta down, which is just so cool. How the exposed status works with Feral Frenzy, I don't know yet. We're going to figure it out, but that is something to consider. I think that perk is super, super cool. And so there is the Legion, our 10th chapter of Dead by Daylight, the new killer and the new survivor. Super excited to get some videos out of playing them and getting a good idea of how that's going to look like. We'll talk to you guys later. Peace.